thanks for joining us for another brief Rhetorica session at the desk with a communication expert. Today's expert is Ken Everett. Ken built the Think on Your Feet workshop network across more than 20 countries. Ken's new book, Designing the Networked Organisation, is just out. In that book, Ken, you talk about changing organisations, the leader as host, and the need for a new type of communication skills. Is that right?
That's correct, Antoni. And of course, there's no reason why we need to be wedded to the organisation models of the past. All we need to do is remind ourselves that they're only 100 or so years old, and the models they emulated were those in existence at the time, those of the church and the military. There was no management class around at the end of the 19th century. Indeed, if you wanted to staff an operation, say like the British Railways at that time, you probably went to looking for retired military officers. So they were the only people trained in running people and running machinery and running operations. So it's no accident today that the boss is called the Chief Executive Officer.
Yes, and that's right, Ken. Is that why also we find that organisations, corporations in particular, are full of a lot of military analogy, battlefield analogy about warfare and strategy and
yeah. I mean, how about recruit? How about fire? How about strategy, tactics? In fact, it's funny you should mention that. I have here an article I was hoping to show you anyway, and it's an advertisement out of a recent copy of, on the back page is a recent copy of the Weekend magazine in the Sydney Morning Herald, and you can probably read the top there where it talks about the Leader's Watch.
Yes.
The interesting thing, there's the front of it to show where it came from. The interesting thing about this, in the subtext, it talks about what makes it a Leader's Watch. It says now in a larger, more commanding size, which is very interesting. I mean, it's been well demonstrated that leaders are on average taller than their managerial counterparts. Yeah. Size is always counted. It's one reason I think why the platform where speakers like to stand is popular. Not only does it enable you to be seen, it makes you look bigger than everybody else.
Right.
But a watch, I mean, are we suggesting buy a watch, become a leader? Well, I don't think we're going quite that far. But my point is this. As you say, that's where we came from. It's deeply ingrained, but it isn't what Miss Gen Y is looking for.
No. Well, tell us, Ken, is what corporations and organisations have to do, be more productive, for lower costs, etc. Is that all compatible with the new rhetoric that we hear about? There's a lot of soft rhetoric out there as well about collaboration and let's look after our employees, and of course the old saw, they're our greatest asset, etc. Is that all compatible with leaders as hosts? And how soft and friendly can we really be, or how far do we need to go with all of that, Ken?
Well, what's soft, what's hard? I think there's a movement that is looking for businesses that are better for business, better for the future, and better for people. And I think the whole three are entirely compatible, and we haven't yet plumbed anything like the possibilities that exist there. This comes up today. The language that's used today for this is engagement, I think. You must hear that, Antoni.
Yes.
Full close. And engagement is about hosting, another word you use, hosting an environment in which people can exercise their freedom, which is one of the things they want. Yep. They can exercise their desire to get mastery of a set of skills, and they can identify with a purpose that is bigger than them and bigger than perhaps the product that's being, or service that is being sold or delivered. It's been well documented that apart from money, these are the things which motivate people. And in fact, in the absence of these, you have to pay more money. Yeah. It's that simple. And this is what Miss Gen Y is wanting. And if you offer it, you are hosting her, you're hosting her ambitions, you're hosting her, you're hosting the meaning, and you're also hosting conversations, which brings us into the area you and I work in, which is communication skills.
I hear from business people, not infrequently, that Gen Y expect too much. They want this, they want that, and they want that. The other day I was chatting with a senior, the founder of a very successful international company, and his opening words to me were how he was a multi-millionaire, but he was humble, he was a man of the people. Then we got onto award wages and so on. He said, well, of course you have to pay some more than award wage. In fact, you have to throw them a bone. And I thought that was it was probably a Freudian slip. I go to some corporations and their idea of throwing a bone is, well, here's some free confectionery out of the machine or out of the vending machine, Coke and lollies, and it's a pretty shallow autonomy that strikes me. It's a pretty sort of
I couldn't agree more. Look, can
you think of a successful organisation, Ken, that really does this well? That we would
Yes,
know?
I can think of several. I was talking only last week to some people from a thing called the Self-Management Institute. Now, that sounds scary to people who are used to command and control. This happens to be an offshoot of the Morningstar Tomato Processing Company. Now, you can't think of anything more day-to-day, if you will, than tomato processing. And this company, a $700 million California company, works on the basis of self-management. And it works very, very successfully. And they report, as do others, higher productivity, higher loyalty, higher margins, and happier employees, i.e. more engagement, less turnover, and higher productivity. Another one that pops to mind is the ROW, the Results Only Work Enterprise. There's a book just out about that. A company called Best Buy, which is well known in the United States, allows its headquarters people to work where they want, when they want, how they want, as long as they get their results done. And the book that describes this is Why Work Sucks and What to Do About it. Again, they are reaping benefits in increased profitability, increased productivity, and reduced turnover.
What are two or three? Sorry.
Sorry, people turnover, I should say. That's what I want to make sure we weren't confusing people there, Andy. And these are hard benefits because, if you like, a soft organisation. So, it depends where you're coming from, doesn't it?
Okay. Yeah, and Ken, what are one or two or three things that they're doing in organisations like this? What are some of the specifics, or maybe tell us about leaders as hosts? What that means?
Okay. Well, let's come into our area of communication skills, Anthony, because that's a good starting point. I think that if we think of the commander, we can think of the standard method of communicating with the troops. Notice the word "the troops," which is a military word, which is standing up on the platform with PowerPoint decorating the background. Notice the word "power." Whilst the people are seated in rows. Notice rows is a metaphor for a parade ground.
Yes.
And we might be trying to excite them about our mission. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying there isn't a place for PowerPoint or for presentations. I'm not saying that at all. But if you want to engage with people, a one-way diatribe is not the way to do it today.
By the way, Ken, engage is another military word, isn't it?
Well, it is, as a matter of fact. So, you put your finger right on it. So, what are the skills that that hosts might use? Number one, they might host conversations. Now, hosting a conversation sounds pretty straightforward, but you'd be surprised how few people are prepared to do it.
Yes. Because
you next have to risk improvising.
Right.
In other words, don't prepare, just show up. Now, this just happens to be a wonderful little book I came across recently, Improv Wisdom, Don't Prepare, Just Show Up. But it talks about the person there who is a good improviser, is someone who is awake,
yes,
not entirely self-focused, and moved by a desire to do something useful and give something back, and to act upon this impulse. When I read that phrase, I said to myself, I wouldn't mind working for somebody like that, and I suspect if I were like that, they wouldn't mind working for me. It seems to me we could engage with each other if we had that mutual set of standards between us. So, improv. Now, that's a lot about questioning and listening, whether it be one-on-one, small groups and large groups, and there are processes that will encompass that, and leaders have to learn how to facilitate those. But let's imagine it's just one-on-one or one on a few people for the moment. I think another skill that people need to learn is how to think on their feet. I know that's self-serving because that's the name of the workshop that we proffer. But what we mean by that is to offer, when you are asked for your ideas, to offer them with the gift of being clear, being brief, and being memorable. Mm. This is the starting point. You could say, but is that going to change the organisational world? Well, if a watch that's large is symbolic of one paradigm, maybe having conversations that are productive with people is symbolic of another one.
Yeah.
And it's more than the conversation when you consider the context in which it's